Hello guys, welcome, and if you've seen my channel before, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian. And for this video, it's actually going to be just something I've always felt, but I was afraid to talk about because I was just so upset with myself for feeling so different than everyone else. But you know what? I'm going to be honest about it myself, and this is a video about how I think from Tolkien's universe, the world he created of Middle-earth, I think Bilbo Baggins makes a better hero than Frodo Baggins. And I'm going to clarify with that, making sure you understand. When I'm talking about Bilbo being better than Frodo, I am not referencing the books. I like Frodo Baggins in the books just as much as I like Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit. So, when it comes to Lord of the Rings versus The Hobbit, yes, I got the huge, a noted one. My mom gave this to me for my birthday once. It's awesome. But I love Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit, the book, and Frodo Baggins in Lord of the Rings, the books, equally. I think they're both great heroes. I'm strictly talking about the Lord of the Rings films versus the Hobbit films. Bilbo in the films versus Frodo in the films. That's what I'm talking about, the way these were adapted to film. I think Bilbo Baggins in the Hobbit trilogy is a way better hero than Frodo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I know. Scandalous. Oh my god. How could I? How could I think that Bilbo's better than Frodo? Hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Again, I like Frodo in the books. I think he is perfect in the books. I think he is excellent. I just don't like him in the movies. So, why do I think this? Well, for clarification, guys, I'm going to be very honest with you. This has nothing to do with Elijah Wood. I think Elijah Wood is a great actor. I really do. And I've seen him in plenty of other movies. He would have been perfect for Frodo Baggins as he was in the book. So this is no offense to Elijah Wood in any way, shape, or form. And with Bilbo Baggins, okay, this is weird. I hear a lot of people who love Martin Freeman, but no one talks about Ian Holmes' portrayal as Bilbo. I loved Ian Holmes' portrayal as Bilbo. I liked his portrayal of Bilbo as much as Martin Freeman's. Martin Freeman, I admit when I first saw him in the first scene where he's like, good morning, to Gandalf when Gandalf first came in, I didn't believe it. I feel like, he was going through motions, and he was acting everything like perfectly, but never connecting. I never felt like a fluidity with his, movements as Bilbo. I felt like he just was like, okay, I know I'm going to freak out here, or become upset here, like, oh, adventures. Oh, nasty businesses. Like, he was going through the motions, but nothing felt real. But then after that first scene, after that, he completely did a very good job. So that first scene, I was like, I feel like you're acting, or you're trying not to act, and trying to be organic, but it doesn't feel organic enough, or it doesn't feel real, or it doesn't feel like it has any energy in your scene. It just felt like the life always fell out of the scene when he spoke. But that scene was brief. After that one scene, once we see Gandalf put the mark on the door, boom, he's Bilbo. Literally, Martin Freeman just kept going with it. It's like, oh, good job, Martin. Very good job. But again, that's just one scene, and he could, for all I know, he could have been directed to do it exactly like that. Peter Jackson could have told Martin Freeman to do exactly like that. And if that's the case, it was perfect. That's what Peter Jackson wanted. Martin Freeman's acting in that first scene was perfect. But after that, he was perfect the entire trilogy. So, why do I think Bilbo is better than Frodo? Because Bilbo starts off kind of scared, kind of not slightly, against adventures and cowardly in some ways, but he really grows into his own, and you see a natural progression, and he really does earn his place in that fellowship, in the group he's in. I see someone who, by the time I was done, I really believed in him, and I saw a charisma, something about him was very loving, or very fluid and very affable. He had personality. Then we've got Frodo in the films. This has nothing to do with Elijah Wood. It has to do with the writing of Frodo. Frodo in the films was weak. Like, he never was really that strong. And here's why I'm saying it's not good, because that is not the way he is in the book. I swear. When it comes to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Frodo starts out a very strong hobbit. That's why he's not only is he strong because he can withstand the power of the ring and he is resilient to its evil, but also because Frodo is quite brave. Frodo starts out, they get lost in the forest with Tom Bombadil, and all that, and he sees his friends being attacked by the Barrow-wights. He protects his friends from the Barrow-wights. He protects Merry and Pippin and Sam. And then when you're on Weathertop and the Ringwraiths are coming towards him, he fights the Ringwraiths. He tries to protect himself. Then when Glorfindel rides and meets the elf Glorfindel rides and meets them in the forest, Aragorn and the hobbits, to get them to Rivendell. Oh, and if you've never read Lord of the Rings, the books, Glorfindel was replaced in the films by Arwen. Remember when Arwen showed up to find Aragorn and take Frodo to Rivendell? That was Glorfindel. It was an elf named Glorfindel in the books. He was actually a pretty cool elf. I liked him. What happens there, though, is it's not Frodo completely passed out on a horse while Glorfindel is riding with him. No, Frodo is on the horse by himself because Glorfindel put him on the horse and let him ride off, and the horse gets across the river or the stream, and then the Ringwraiths pursue him. Frodo turns around on the horse with his sword and says, "You will haunt me no longer," and he's willing to fight these Ringwraiths. He is literally calling out the race himself. Yeah. Yeah. That is the real Frodo. He had been stabbed. He had been stabbed already. So yes, but stabbed by the Morgul blade. But he was still conscious and he was still defending himself. Then in Two Towers, it is made very clear that Frodo will never trust the word of Gollum over Sam. Ever. Ever. He never, ever, ever loses faith in Samwise and chooses to believe Gollum over him. In Return of the King, we never, ever see Frodo send Sam away and trust Gollum. We never see him lose anything else but utter trust in Sam. Then we get the film, and the film, Frodo, it's like he is, with the exception of maybe the first 15 minutes, which is up until the point where he leaves the Shire, right after he leaves the Shire, literally, it's like he is made to look weak the entire time. And it's like, okay, you keep talking about the strength of this hobbit, but you're not showing us any strength. What does he do on Weathertop? He drops his sword. Literally, the Ringwraiths are walking towards him, and he just drops his sword and falls on the ground in utter fear. Of course, we don't have the scene with Tom Bombadil, understandably so. There was eventually, to be honest with you, while I enjoy Tom Bombadil in some ways, he doesn't ultimately contribute to the plot line. So it's understandable why they didn't have Tom Bombadil in it. Makes all the sense in the world. So of course we don't have him when he's protecting his friends against the Barrow-wights. Then we have him literally passed out on Arwen's horse while she's the one helping him away, riding him away from the Ringwraiths, and she's the one who says, "Come and claim him," across the stream or river. It's like every single scene that makes Frodo look strong in the books is not put into the films. Now, how am I supposed to believe that this hobbit is strong enough to withstand the power of the ring when you never showed he was strong enough? And from the very get-go, not from the get-go, but once we get to Two Towers at most, he is very susceptible to the ring. Like, you see him very quickly, decaying. And this is the problem with the writers. I love Lord of the Rings. To make it very clear, I love Lord of the Rings a great deal. But here's my problem with the way they portrayed Frodo. I think in their desperation to show the power of the ring, to show how the ring was all powerful, the ring could, just cripple anyone, they didn't realize by showing the strength of the ring, they kept on not showing the strength of Frodo. By making him weak too much too soon, they were showing again, they were giving gravity to the power of the ring, but it diminished the strength of Frodo and made all those claims of Frodo being a strong hobbit who could be strong enough to protect himself from the ring. They were so gung-ho about making the ring look strong, they made Frodo look weak too early, and then it just did not make any sense how he was strong enough to withstand the ring. And yes, he does withstand the ring in some ways, but we keep seeing him almost in many ways give into the power of the ring. Like when he puts the ring on and at the end of Two Towers and the Nazgul is just riding up to him, but to put the ring on, he almost kills Sam. Again, all these scenes where he's like snapping at Sam about how he knows nothing. You keep showing how this guy is weak, then how can we believe he's strong enough to withstand the ring? And also, if you made him weak to begin with, instead of strong to begin with, and gets weaker over time, you're not helping us believe in Frodo as a hero, and you're not showing the contrast. You actually don't even show validity to the idea of him being strong enough to withstand the power of the ring. Because if you make him too weak too soon, which they did, where's the growth? You know, it doesn't, sorry, but it makes his fall not really much of a fall, because he was always falling. You see what I'm getting at? Like, if you made him strong from the very beginning, all throughout Fellowship of the Ring, if you kept all those moments in there, in the book, where Frodo was strong, he did face the ring race, he did protect himself, he protected his friends. If we saw that, if we did, when we see him falling and giving into the power of the ring in Return of the King, it would have added so much more to that fall, because then we see, oh, this is how strong this ring is. It took a thoroughly strong person and made them thoroughly weak. But if you made them weak from the very beginning, where's the change? Where is it? Bilbo Baggins started out a relatively average. He had some took in him. He did have some took in him, but he still started out an average hobbit who was not keen on adventures. And then his courage eventually was found along the way, and he rose and rose again to become the hobbit we all loved. Frodo in the books started out the hobbit we all loved. Yes, it took him a while to leave the Shire. It did. But once he left there, he proved to be worth what he was worth. He proved to be great. He did, but because he started at such a strong point, then he got slightly weaker in Two Towers, but not much at all. Like, literally, he protected himself against the spider. He really did. Sam helped him, but Frodo really was strong, and he did not ever abandon Sam at all for Gollum. He always had complete faith in Sam. But it's not until Return of the King that we see the fall. So by starting out here and keep staying there throughout most of Two Towers, and then Return of the King, then he falls, you see the contrast, and it actually does add weight to the power of the ring. That took this thoroughly strong person and weakened them by the end. But if they were kind of weak to begin with and were always almost putting the ring on quite often, and then always needing to be saved, never trying to defend themselves almost. Sometimes Frodo did protect himself in Fellowship of the Ring, he does, and sometimes in Two Towers, he does. But it just wasn't strong enough. By showing the strength of Frodo the way Frodo was written in the book. This is not me making things up. Frodo was that way in the book. He actually was. By keeping him the way he was in the book, and then showing the gradual, very gradual decline throughout Return of the King, for when he does finally say the ring is mine, and he does rip it off a chain and does put it on, it would add so much more to that moment if he was as strong as he was in the book to begin with. It just would. It would make that time where he says the ring is mine, and just take it off and put it on. It would add so much more to that scene if he was a strong hobbit who was continually resisting the power of the ring all throughout Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers. It just would. It just would. So I know it's weird. I know it's a strange take. How dare I criticize anything about Lord of the Rings movies? Guys, I make it very clear. I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I just think they are so awesome. I know some people think they're overrated. I don't. I think they are perfection almost, pretty much. The extended editions, mostly. The theatrical of Fellowship of the Ring is really good, but the extended editions are all awesome. That's when I'm like, really, Two Towers Extended Edition just makes the Two Towers theatrical look so crappy. Literally, Two Towers Extended Edition is a perfect film to me. But yeah, so I know, how do I say anything negative about Lord of the Rings? But I can't help but really think this is just something I've always noticed. I always felt like Bilbo in the Hobbit films, and I know people hate the Hobbit films, but I just like the way Bilbo was presented. I love the way he was presented versus Frodo in the films, where I love Frodo in the books, but him in the films, it was like, what is this? What is this? Just stick with the way he was in the book. He was one of the few characters I cared about. So Tolkien has a writing style. Tolkien does have a writing style, we must admit, where there are some characters you care about, some you don't. And the only characters I really cared about were Frodo, Eowyn. Oh, I loved Eowyn. Faramir, and Sam. I mean, there were some characters I cared for now and again. I cared for Merry and Pippin every now and again. I really did. Sometimes I cared for Legolas and Gimli, but I feel like they were more fleshed out in some ways in the films than they were in the books. I know people don't like the way sometimes Gimli was made comedic in the films and he wasn't in the books, but it had a different dynamic to their relationship. It really did. But yeah, I mean, I really cared about Frodo in the books, but in the films, I was like, you're too weak too soon. If you're too weak too soon, where's the change? It's not as much of a change as being very strong from the very beginning, and by the time you get to Return of the King, then you declined. That's more of a shock and surprise. And therefore, I think Bilbo in the films is a better hero than Frodo. He starts here, we see a distinct rise and change of character. Frodo, we see him have a bit of strength in Fellowship of the Ring, but not much, and then he just gets more weak. But he was never that strong to begin with, so I just don't feel like the change is just drastic enough. And I feel like if you don't have much strength as a heroic character, as you did in the book, I'm not going to be that inclined to love you. See what I'm getting at? I know it's strange, but that's just the way I feel. And I can't help but, I just feel like talking about it. Again, I do love Lord of the Rings. I love it. And I don't hate Frodo. I just don't like him as much as I like Bilbo. And I don't like Frodo in the films as much as I like Frodo in the books. Again, love Elijah Wood. Just think Frodo could have been a little bit more well realized in the films. I don't know why the choices were made with his character to be presented that way. If you disagree with me, it's perfectly okay. I understand why you disagree with me. Makes all the sense in the world. That's just something I feel. So, thank you so much very much, guys. And again, I remember, I like Frodo in the films, just not as much as Bilbo, and I think he's just not as strong of a hero. That's mostly it. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And if you like Frodo more than Bilbo, or you think I'm absolutely bonkers, please it's fine to disagree with me. Just please be polite about it. So thank you so much, guys. And what do you think? Do you like Frodo better? Do you like Bilbo better? Do you like them both equally? No one's really wrong here. So thank you guys again. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and peace out.